Hello guys. So in the last video we talked about the basics of human rights, its generation, and its like where does it come from and the sources of human rights. In this video we are going to talk about its two of its major approaches. First is the universal approach and the second is the cultural relativist approach. And both of these approaches are very different from each other. So we are also going to talk about like how the universalist and the culture relativist argue with each other. So it is going to be fun. So let's start the video. So now let's talk about the universal approach. So universal approach is based on the idea that all the human beings across the world deserve the same human rights simply because of the virtue of being a human. So this idea emerged mainly in the 19th century, especially after the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, where it gave the a very global standard for all the countries to follow and protect the human rights. The universal approach often argue that the human rights are not depend on any legal system or any specific culture, but they are applied to everyone everywhere. They serve the humanity as a whole. Okay, now let's talk about cultural relativism. So cultural relativism is very antithesis to universal approach. They argue that rights cannot be understood as universal because every society is very different in their religion, religious values, social values, history, and cultures. So applying the universality of rights in everywhere, it might not be pragmatic. And this particular approach is like emerged mainly in the 19th century with the anthropologist called Franz Boas, who argued that every culture must be understood in their own terms. Okay, so now let's talk about the arguments that both of these approaches proposed against each other. So the universalists argue against the cultural relativists that this can be used as a tool to justify any oppressive or any oppressive or unjust practices. So historically we have seen that there are a lot of like discriminatory practice which is happening in the society, whether it's caste discrimination, apartheid, or any kind of gender inequality. So the universalists argue that it can be used as a justify all those practices which will be malicious for the society. The relativist on the other hand argued against the universal approach that this is largely based on the western political philosophy and it reflects extreme individualism, which is not false, because while I was reading this, the basis of the universal approach is from the Magna Carta and English Bill of Rights, and also from American Declaration of Rights and all. So, but however, we also have to consider that there are certain rights to all the human being that they deserve. From example, freedom from torture and all. Anyway, coming to the relativist argument, the relativist also opine that judging a non-Western culture from a Western values can be become a tool for cultural imperialism. So, and it also may ignore the cultural distinction and the values. So those are the arguments usually proposed by the universalist and relativist. So if you want to understand how the like the relativist actually think, then I would recommend you to read this book, India That Is Bharat, by, right by Sai Deepak. It is a very nice book which talks about how we judge our own culture through Western values, and it's a must-read book. I believe so, and I'm not saying that you have to agree to all this. I didn't agree to all this, but there are certain arguments from Sai Deepak which I believe are like relevant in today's world. And yeah, that was it. Thank you. Bye bye. If you like this video, please like it.